Why, hello, and welcome to issue 666 of Geek in the City Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Duran.
I'm one of your other hosts, Spinarita.
And I am your other host, the sinister Cable Hashitani.
Hello, villains.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing spooky names. Oh God, what a fucking day!
Oh, I didn't give myself a spooky name.
I was just reacting to the fact that this is finally episode 666.
Subtitled, Who Shall Make War with the Beast? I just put that in.
I thought we were the beast. I don't.
Beast. Hello, asshole. Don't call me that. Don't call me Beast.
I don't think Cable's there yet. Oh no, that's from the movie. Never mind.
That's from the movie, yeah.
Yeah. Never mind. I take it back.
What movie?
What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't. Yeah, it's been far too long since I've seen that.
It's been a while, yeah. Nope, can't do that.
It's one of the few movies that I have watched multiple times. I don't really do that much.
Yeah. Oh man.
Clickety clack.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Right around a little bit, we are going to have a guest on the show, Mr. B. Dave Walters. If you watch any kind of like real play D&D shows or Vampire by Night shows, it's a good chance you have seen him. He's hard to forget because he's apparently like 6'5". He is a tall man.
His bio says he's 6'9".
Oh, 6'9".
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen like him posing with pictures of people that are, also tall, and I'm like, he's like towering over them. So yeah,
I'm gonna keep my comments to myself.
Yeah,
Me too.
6'9".
So never mind.
Okay.
But that's not why he's on the show.
No, that is not why he's on the show. You guys have heard me talk about the Black Dice Society, which is kind of where I first discovered his work. I've been following that since like episode 2, join the Patreon. And I'm just like a big Ravenloft nerd. So I was like, one day I want to just talk to him. And I saw his posts about like running games and writing and stuff. And I just really dig his style. So yeah.
Wait, you're a big Ravenloft nerd? How did I know?
What? I know. Who would have guessed?
Everyone who's ever met you.
What? Okay, I'm not gonna watch the chat because I don't understand anything right now.
That's okay.
That was in like the public one, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm
trying to have a laugh with the listeners. Leave me alone.
Okay.
Thanks.
It has been. Yes, I know. Never mind. Which means I'll send them the link here in just a moment. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about. I'm sure they get these questions all the time. I still don't know how people pull off like live streaming games. Like, how do you make them work? And it seems like it's going to be a real pedantic question to ask them, and maybe it's different. Well, I'll just wait.
I mean. The majority of live play podcasts and videocasts are heavily edited.
Right. Yeah.
I think the exception to that rule is Critical Role, which rolls into which they don't heavily edit it. They just kind of go, and it's the actual entire play session, which means you've got like a 4-hour video to sit through.
Which
unedited,
which is difficult for me. It loses my attention rather quickly.
Oof, yeah, like the Adventure Zone is edited. They probably spend 3 hours at the table and cut that show down to about an hour and a half.
Right.
It takes a long time, though. I believe the hosts of Kill Every Monster said that for every hour of audio, it's 2 hours of production, like post.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just not just like editing out like the stuff you're not going to use, but also like dropping in asides and sound effects. Because they do a lot for their show.
yeah, and I
To be
like
f-
their production values too.
Yeah. To
Mhm.
be fair, Aram is a producer that's a producer akin to Aaron, where they are very particular about how they produce and edit shows. They have specific things they're listening for and how to sweeten audio and what is a tight 5 minutes versus a loose 5 minutes. That I think 87% of listeners don't pick up on.
Yes, They don't.
You have higher standards than, say, the people that may be listening or your other co-hosts,
yes. Hence the loud keyboard.
which is fantastic. Like, I really I love the fact that you are that skilled and that passionate. And Aram of Kill Every Monster, self-admittedly, is the same way. He's talked about
Right.
the fact that production should not take as long as it does. It takes that long because he's the one doing it, and he's just that kind of a nerd for it.
Right. And it is probably a better source of it. I know it seems it always comes back to money, but like if you make a bit more doing it, it's easier to justify your time doing it.
Absolutely. No one really pays us to do this show. We don't do hardly any post-production. You get what you get. And we put time into like planning our stuff, but in terms of like once we've recorded it, that's kind of it, right? Except for
and it doesn't it never fails. Every few months, like someone says, like you should do like a live play or a radio drama or stuff. And I've got to the point where I'm like, I'm not doing it for free. Like it's an incredible amount of work. Like it's a lot of work that I just don't have.
Yeah.
Like,
the cleaner something sounds, the longer it took to get it to you.
Yep. Like we considered that for this episode. We were, and like it's still on the table as something that we'd like to do, but we considered doing some sort of horror live RPG, but that would have added one more person to the table because the three of us would have been the players. We would have needed a DM.
Right.
That means that turns into a 3-hour podcast.
And then editing that down to maybe 1.5.
Plus the amount of time that we are asking an unpaid DM to put together an adventure for us. It's a one shot.
Right. Which is a lot for them to do too. Like that.
Yeah.
I think that's, I don't know if we should save this for our guests and talk about it a little bit. I think these like online DMs that's really nice. Homicidal Fire Cow. Portland is not good at supporting those things. They're very bad at it. As in, it doesn't work because I have tried. So,
if we were in LA, that would not be a problem.
Right. And I know he's gonna say no, Norm.
We also have. We would also have a producer who is not one of the hosts, and we would have an agent that would handle the bookings for us.
Yeah,
and it would be a paid job. It would be a paid gig on top of like 3 other paid gigs that we were doing, but it would be more of a paid gig than doing it in Portland. Portland is a place where you come to incubate ideas, and they either grow to a point that you have to take them to New York or LA to sell them.
I'm going to send him the link.
Or you let it stay here in Portland and do it because it continues to be a passion project and it is not about making it a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yeah, that's why every successful stand-up comic that starts in Portland eventually goes to LA.
Yep.
Because there's only so much growth.
Yeah, they may still love Portland and love to perform here and have friends and family here. Portland, for all of its claims of supporting the arts doesn't. Not really. Not in the long term.
If you've ever had long conversations with me at the gallery back in the day, you heard me say that Portland is fantastic at supporting the arts. It is piss poor at being a patron of the arts.
Right.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it for sure.
Absolutely not.
No.
He
Norm.
says, responding to Norm in
Norm,
the chat.
Oh, I think our guest is about to jump in.
we'll put a pin in that.
That's good because Norm's on a tear and we need to get him off of it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome our guest, Mr. B. Dave Walters. How are you, sir? Oh, no. Why did you mute? Oh, please tell me this isn't happening again.
Look for a little red microphone indicator on your computer.
Out there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my god! I don't think we could have handled twice in the same show.
Yeah, we panicked because we were 10 minutes late in starting because we were having mic issues. We're like, come on.
Yep. No problem. I've done this a timer 500. So,
Yeah, you've only done it a few times. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, for folks that know, I mentioned before the show, like I first was introduced to your work because I became a huge fan of the Black Dice Society. Yeah, I think I joined in right around episode 2 or 3, and it was literally like my weekly thing I was looking forward to every single week, and continues to be.
I was like, hey, why are you talking past tense? We're not done
No,
yet. We got
I know.
3 episodes left.
I know.
3.
I'm actually holding off right now because I'm doing that thing where like you know, like all things must end, but part of me is like, it's just gonna it's gonna be gone. I gotta say, so I'm watching in like 20-minute increments.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
Nope. I very much get it.
Yeah.
Is this legit episode number 666 for the record?
It really is. Yes. Yeah. I
Yep.
did.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm signal boosting in real time here.
Oh,
Excellent.
thanks.
I'm glad that if we could not have specifically done something, very horror focused for this particular episode, we at least have a guest who can appreciate the number of the episode.
At least we got it. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
I'm on the most beastly of episodes. Yes,
That's right.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. We actually tried, this is years ago back in terrestrial radio on June 6, 2006, when I was working in radio. We tried to do a live D&D session, which for those who are curious, it doesn't work if you put 5 radio station engineers with a mic and have them play D&D. It just devolves into just chaos and really bad locker room humor.
So,
I'm
like
shocked.
playing D&D. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, but with 100,000 watts, broadcasting over the area. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a talk radio show for about 7 years. So, yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
I remember
got
those days.
You have radio war stories also.
Indeed I do. But it's it was a good time at the time.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to first off ask you is when did you kind of get bit by the role-playing bug? Like when was the moment you're like, this could be for me?
Oh, I was there when the Deep Magic was written. I grew up during the Satanic Panic. So yeah, I've been playing since I was 13.
Yeah.
I almost I barely remember a time when this wasn't my jam. When I grew up, sci-fi, superheroes, the whole 9 yards. My mom exposed me to all that stuff at a very early age. And when I was 13, a friend of mine introduced me to the game of Rifts, which, if you don't know, has a horrific power creep problem.
Yes.
So we outgrew Rifts pretty quickly. And a buddy of mine who was an absolute hipster was like, "Oh, if you're gonna play those games, you got to play D&D." And got the old 2nd edition player's handbook with the dude on the horse on it, and the janky spine that unravels, and the rest is history.
Oh yeah. I think on mine, I finally cut off the spine, and my best friend's father owned an office supply shop, and we just put them all into 3-ring binders.
Yep.
Just tore them all apart.
Exactly. Well, it's like, where black belts come from is it used to be everybody's belt was the same color. And over the time you spent on the mat, it just got dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And so you could tell who the higher level students were because they had black belts. It's the same thing with the book. The more busted ass your player's handbook looked, you're like, oh, that dude, he knows what's up,
Yeah. They've been doing this for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how did you have to kind of weather the Satanic Panic era? I grew up in a very small town where my local bookstore, her name was Margie's Book Nook. She hid our D&D books for us. She was a
Ooh.
saint. Yeah.
Shout out to Margie.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, no, I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm from the South.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
yeah, I was neck deep in it. Sorry.
Man.
I'm choking to death on the episode of The Beast.
Oh man.
Oh,
Well,
no.
yeah. It was bound to happen.
I will die as I've lived. Yes. No, but I mean, but by the same token, people didn't give us a huge problem. I mean, I had friends whose like parents burned their books and all that stuff, but we'd play at the church. Yeah. I mean, a couple of times they were like, hey, is this okay? And we'd be like, yeah. And they were like, okay. You know what I mean? We weren't bad kids. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like, yeah, it was, so it was relatively painless for me personally, but I mean, I watched it go down all around me though.
Yeah. My favorite was always if they caught me with a D20 at school, kids saying like, are you summoning the devil? I'm like, yes. And this is how it's done.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I took my copy to church camp, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's when I met the kids from Stranger Things, when I did that one shot for them, I told them, I was like, you know, the show you guys are playing was my actual life. This was my actual upbringing with slightly fewer monsters, but only slightly. Right. Otherwise, this was my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had people ask me like, it couldn't have been that bad. Like the Satanic Panic wasn't that bad. I said,
yeah, it was.
They were nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was like late 80s, but my town was I always say my town I grew up in was 5 years behind the culture. Mm-hmm. So we were always, but yeah, I mean, we got hit like just bad. It was awful. I had friends that contemplated some dark acts because they were picked on so bad for doing this.
I tell people all the time though, I believe D&D exists as it does now expressly because of that, because it became dangerous, it became countercultural. I mean, otherwise there's not a monopoly subculture. Everybody's got a copy of the game, you pull it out of the holidays, renew your hatred for your relatives, and you don't think about it again. D&D would have been just a game, but that it became like such a thing for so many people was that, you know?
Yeah, it still kind of has that era and aura of danger to it. I think Wizards is doing like trying to pull away from it, but there's always going to be that group of people that are like, no, that's the devil's game.
To which we say, good,
excellent.
Yeah.
So much so that when I started when it was in high school, my family forbid me from playing it, but they had no problem with me playing Vampire the Masquerade, or I don't know if you want a game. It was called In Nomine. It was like a cult. The French game. Like these are games that have like legit screwed up things in them. My mom was like, well, it's not D&D.
Yeah. It's like there are neither demons nor devils until demons actually showed up in the world of darkness, and then you are the devils in that world. So yeah, super.
Yeah, everything.
Although I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out to Clan Ventru while we're talking about it though. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I'm not going to bring any of that up. I haven't played Vampire in a long time, so I don't really know what clan I affiliate with anymore.
I got some ideas, but I'll tell y'all.
All right. Oh, that'll be fun.
I think you just got red, man.
I might have, man. Yeah. If we had more time, I'd tell you about the day that I ruined an entire town here in Oregon's their official like Vampire the Masquerade clan. They were part of the U.S. story, and they invited us to their Halloween thing, and they were complete dicks. So we got them all wiped out. It kind of felt good. It was they were having like the prince had just died, so everyone's guard was down, and I was like, you guys are being dick to us, so screw it, burn them all down.
Yep. Nails shut the doors to their havens and set them on fire. Yeah. That tactic has worked since the 4th century. Yeah.
It always works. So we've got a few listeners here. We got a guy named Norm from Texas.
Hey, Norm from Texas.
What was the most epic moment?
I'm sure that's the very first time he's heard that. No,
all the
time. Be the first.
Yeah.
A very timely, topical allusion to a show that went off the air 30 years ago.
If he could text images, we'd probably get these stares and texting with him just sweating profusely as he's staring at you.
Don't blame me. Blame your parents, Norm.
He wants to know what's the most epic moment in all your years of playing D&D, if you could pick one.
This is slightly cheating because technically it was a game of Pathfinder, but Pathfinder was just 3.5. So in my mind, it counts.
Yeah.
Because I was a 4th edition refugee. I button hook over to Pathfinder for the entire run of 4th edition. And it was even a relatively late adopter, 5th edition. I mean, it was out 2 or 3 years before I came back and tried it. I had a guy who his character concept was he wanted to be a dragon slayer from level 1. And of course, you're not slaying any dragons at level 1.
No,
but that was his thing. That's what he wanted. In Pathfinder, they had something called an arrow of slaying shot, and it was set to a certain type of creature. And if you shot them with the arrow, they had a relatively easy save to make. But if they didn't make that save, they died. When they were at like level 8 or so, I gave him an arrow of slaying shot for dragons. And about a year later, like a calendar year later, we had this big encounter. And a dragon was going to attack the village, and I had it all planned out like round to round. Like round 1, the dragon's going to fly over and breath weapon. And round 2, it's going to land. And then round 3, it's going to leave again and all this stuff. And I'm describing it all. We get there. We roll initiative. He goes first. He's like, I'm going to use my arrow slaying shot. I'm like, you're going to do what? And he's like, arrow slaying shot. I was like, oh, okay. Because, I mean, it was a laughably low con roll, and dragons got pretty chunky con.
Yeah.
He rolls to attack, natural 20. I roll to save 1.
Oh my God.
Round 1, minute 1, shoots the thing out of the sky. And of course, he's what? And they all just explode at the table. And I was like, I mean, hey, the dice had their own story to tell. And I always point that out, especially to a lot of storytellers who haven't been doing it this long, because I very easily could have just been like, oh, it makes the save, or oh, there's a second dragon, trying to preserve my adventure. But it was more important to give them that moment that all these years later we all remember. So getting the story out for that. How do you kind of balance that out? Like I am primarily a DM with our groups. I wish I could play more, but I mean, I have fun playing. But one of the things I'll find myself wanting to do is I'm never an adversarial style dungeon master. I'm very much of the yes and. Like if you can sell it to me, it may not be easy, but I'll let you give it a shot. But every once in a while, and I try not to do this, but every once in a while, if the story's going so well, especially if they're fighting right up to the big bad or whatever, and I roll the dice behind my screen or something, and the dice say this character is screwed. Like in my head, sometimes I think, is that fair to them? Like they've come this far. What can I do other than wiping them out so the story goes on? The DM screen only exists to fudge rolls to the player's advantage. That's the sole purpose of the DM screen. Like people don't realize that. Like that's what it's there for.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer.
At the end of the day, your job as a storyteller is to elicit an emotional reaction from them. In contrary to popular opinion, or some opinions at least, making things too easy, actually nobody wants that. Sometimes, at least on occasion, do smash their heads in, even if, let's say you come along and you have a situation like that where it's supposed to be a TPK, the dice say, not even you, the dice say they get run over. All right, they come to in a dungeon, chained up and shackled. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't have to be the end of the story. Right. Unless you decide it is. That being said, you also can always just flatten one person, because as long as one person lives, the campaign lives. Maybe the rogue gets away and has to go rescue their friends from the hospital or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's actually something that I very much agree with. I can't think of a time that I've really gone out of my way to protect a character. Like one time in an old Ravenloft game, it was a total party kill, and I had them wake up, and they woke up in Victor Mordenheim's lab, like in tubes, and you look around, and your heads are in different boxes, and they're like, what the shit,
I also, a lot of times when people are dropped into death saves, a lot of times I'll have the gods appear to them and offer them deals, and it's usually negative gods, because they're like, Asmodeus realizes you're in a bit of a pinch, and then maybe they negotiate and make a deal or something that is just going to extend the story in a different way later on. Or sometimes they're like, no, I'll die, and I'll die a hero. And then maybe they do die, and that's got some weight. The thing about D&D though is past a certain level, death is a revolving door. That's not actually death. You've got to do something else to permanently incapacitate someone. But you get moments where now it is more than just dice and death saves. Like I don't know how far you into the Black Dice Society.
I just wrapped up. I've got 2 left for the most. So whatever, 20.
If you're like 2 behind, you've probably seen this scene. I don't even completely remember where it happened myself, and I won't name the character in case somebody's not caught up, because you super should watch it because the show's kind of incredible.
It really is.
There's someone who is in death saves, and a god comes to them and is like, "I'll help you. You don't have to die like this." And they roll and they fail their first death save, and I very much describe it like, "Oh, it's getting darker. Not won't be long yet," and kind of feel their hand on your face and type thing. Yeah, because then you're actually ratcheting up the tension, and each one of those rolls counts, because if they get a 1, everybody knows what that means. But if they get a 20, it's like, hooray. So yeah,
I've got someone in the current Ravenloft game I'm running. I'm not going to say because they also listen to this show. But they have been saved by their patron, who now really is got a hold on him. It was enough that they, this was already their warlock patron, but now this patron is like, "You owe me so much now." Like,
only free cheeses in a mousetrap. Yep,
that's right. And then someone else in this show might have taken Harkin's bite on accident because he thought she was cute. So
she thought she was helping. Thomason is a very naive and well-meaning young lady. Oh, that's great. You have to tell me where you got that, because I need one for my character.
This is actually a raptor claw from Universal Studios at the Jurassic Park ride.
Okay.
But that's a werewolf fang. That's a fang enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just got to pop down to Universal real quick and get one for my character.
That's all you got to do. No problem at all. Yeah. When DJ Knight created Desmond and wanted him to be a lycanthrope, I told him about the fang necklace, and he went out and got one, and he wears it every single time he's had it and never taken it off in all these episodes. Yep.
Yeah, it's fantastic. When did you start DMing? I mean, is that something you kind of started off with, or did you play for a few years first, or?
No, it was all kind of interrelated, especially because I didn't run that game of Rifts, but again, my buddy that taught me or introduced me to D&D, rather, like a lot of times we just play one-on-one. So I did that show on YouTube a little while back on Q Times YouTube, the one-on-one shots where I'm playing with just one person, which was unusual to a lot of people that saw it. But to me, that was how I played the game first. And we just take turns doing it. So, I mean, as far back as I remember, I was telling stories as well as playing in them. And my first character was an elven fighter mage thief based on Vampire Hunter D. Very big head, very big sword.
Oh, I love it. You love to see it.
Yep.
Oh my
Couldn't
God.
figure out how to have a talking hand. Besides that, all the rest of it, had it.
I do kind of love that almost everyone's first character is usually based on something from pop culture that they like. Mine was a half-elf ranger who was basically Nightwing. I wrote the whole backstory. Parents killed, raised by rich elves, is now out for vengeance, or whatever. My friend was like, "Did you just roll up Nightwing?" I'm like,
Acrobat in a traveling circus. Yeah, props to you for making Nightwing and not Batman, though. So there you go.
But he did give me a free Cloak of the Bat from the old 2nd edition, so I could kind of walk the line.
That counts.
Yeah. I had something that just slipped out. But so one of the things I really appreciate with the work you do is you also are a big advocate for like diverse voices in role playing in general, gender identity, sexuality, racial issues. Like, when did you see that shift starting to happen on a more positive note? Because I have memories of playing younger, and it was always very kind of cis white dominated. And then I got
white people stuff. That's what it was called.
Yeah, it was. And then because of economics, I got out of, for various reasons, I didn't get to game for like a decade. And then when I came back, I was like, this feels way more inclusive and not like cringy sometimes when I read the books anymore.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because a part of the reason why I never got into minis, I still don't use minis, is I couldn't afford them at the time. So I played theater of the mind, 'cause that's what we had. Now I got shelves and shelves of minis that people have like given me and sent to me, and I very rarely use them, with one glowing exception here. Hang on, I'll show you my prize joy. Wait. My big old girl, my chunky girl Tiamat. You know, she
oh man,
she gets a lot of play. She gets a lot of play, but most of the rest of them, not so much.
Did you paint her yourself?
No, this is the WizKids Tiamat.
Okay.
She comes painted.
To be fair, I work at a game store. There is a painted and unpainted version of Tiamat.
All right, well, that is the painted one. No, if she had come unpainted, she would look pale gray for all time.
It's a lot of paint. There's a lot of service to try and paint with that. Like,
yeah.
We've had people pick up the unpainted ones, and I'm like, are you just gonna go next door and get some house paint to like?
Yeah,
I'm
not that dude. Yeah, God bless the people that are. That is not my form of artistic expression.
Yeah,
it's hard, man.
Yeah, but when did the reality is different kinds of people were always playing these games from the very beginning. I mean, women were playing, people of color were playing, all kinds of different people were playing. They just rarely were the faces of it. It was like a subculture to the subculture. And one of the things that I hear all the time, the two main things I hear are, I never met another person like me that was playing, or I always wanted to and never had the chance. So I think as streaming sort of rose up, 2016 into 2017, and it kind of became cool to watch people to do it, then the door just sort of opened further and further. And that also kind of synced up nicely with 5th edition, which is relatively accessible and relatively easy to learn. Compared to having to calculate THAC0 and Ben Bars lift gates, like we used to have to. You have to do.
I was that
play a game.
I was that unsufferable player when they transitioned from second to third, where I was like, "What is this base attack? This is this is not my D&D." And then I sat and played it, and I was like, "God, THAC0 was dumb."
Yeah, THAC0 was dumb. Yeah, and that was one of the things, and I'm still not sure exactly how it's going to work out with 1D&D. Although 1D&D is still pretty heavily a 5th edition chassis, because I sat down, I talked to the developers. I'm like, the problem you guys have is this is about the purest expression of this game that you got, and the problem with 4th edition is it was too radical of a departure. If they'd call 4th edition D&D Tactics, they'd be printing books now. It's just trying to say, like, here's the thing you love, but new and different. We're like, we want neither of those things. So,
I've never actually hated the 4th edition mechanics in the system. It just didn't feel like D&D to me. I felt like you could layer that on like a superhero game, and I think it would pop.
They intentionally tried to make a tabletop MMO. They went after the MMO audience in a way that was successful. The problem was it completely alienated all the people that actually wanted to play the tabletop game. So so I think that's what it is. It's everybody was already doing it, and then there was just sort of this like cultural upswelling. I mean, in a big part of this, though, my career exists in large part of me being very publicly critical of Chult. When we were doing Ask Your Black Geek Friend, when Tomb of Annihilation came out, and I was like, this is just very tone deaf. I mean, the original Chult was racist as hell, but it was the product of the time, cannibals and pygmies with bones in their noses and all that stuff. And then this Chult came along, and it was kind of like this just sort of lazy post-colonial thing. And I was like, y'all, this is a fantasy world. The black people could have lived on the moon. Like, what is this? It's clear to me that no people of color participated in this project. And to the eternal credit of WotC as a company and Greg Tito as an individual, they were like, hey, you're right. We'll do better. And they have. And they brought in, people like me, Jasmine Bular, Gabe James, Tanya DePass, too many people to mention. Serena Marie, Mackenzie DeArmas. I'm going to just keep randomly spouting names.
That's good,
that over time help add those different perspectives into it, and you can feel it, you can tell.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. So I've heard like some critiques and some like questions about how like D&D is maybe too much of the the juggernaut in the room. that when people think role-playing games, they immediately think D&D, and I feel like WotC kind of gets a bad rap for that because I don't feel like they push that narrative. I mean, I don't know if they do. I don't pay attention enough to that. I just play the game kind of thing.
You know, I'm like, haters gonna hate, man. I mean, I'm lead developer of Into the Motherlands, another game. I've played just as much Vampire. I've written for tons of things. Almost all of these things exist because D&D came first. You know, that's like being mad at the NFL because your, you know, local Rough Riders Arena League football team can't get any attention. It's like, well, get good and people will come to your games. I mean, can't hate on them for having succeeded because it has been a very rough, difficult, and improbable road for them to have accomplished what they've accomplished.
And it is kind of the gateway. Like once someone plays D&D a little bit, they're like, well, what else is there? You're like, well, welcome. Like you swing the doors wide open.
It does the same thing that like Games Workshop does for miniature games, where it is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and every other miniature game either tries to be like it or be completely different from it. And I feel like that happens with so much of the RPGs that are out there. There are some fantastic RPGs that are indie RPGs that have no similarity to D&D, but they were inspired and they have place in the room because of D&D.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, absolutely. It's just hip's just gonna hipster, man. You know, I'm just kind of like, get out of my face with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only real problem is there's not enough time to run every single game. Like I look at my gaming shelf and go,
is
tried.
gaze longingly over there at a shelf full of games that I've never played ever. Yeah.
I'm already pre-bummed out knowing that when I get my copy of Into the Motherlands, I'm going to read it cover to cover and go, I don't know when I'm going to get to run this or play it.
That's not what's going to happen. You're going to read it cover to cover and be like, word, we got to play this tonight. You know?
That's probably, yeah. Well, I had the same effect when I got Coyote and Crow. I just loved that book.
Oh, man.
Oh, we should do one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's, I don't, you know, we're obviously with our fledgling little game not trying to take on D&D. I don't think anybody should be trying to take on D&D. And I know for a fact D&D is not trying to take on anybody else.
Right.
What you got to do is just tell the best story with the purest expression of the world that you can. You know, create a place that people want to get lost in, and give them the tools to do it. And you know, the people that want to come there will, and that's okay. You know, I mean, yes, D&D is this behemoth, but people seem to lose track of the fact that it's also been at it for 50 years.
Right.
Even Vampire's been 30, although I guess they were dark for, you know, a few of those, but still.
Right.
It's 30 years this month, which hurts me to say out loud because I was also there when the Deep Magic was written. But also, still, shout out to Clan Ventru. I will pull a different accoutrement from over here every time I reach.
I mean, since I was a theater nerd all through high school, I was Toreador for a long time, but it doesn't quite fit me anymore. So you shut your mouth, Cable.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Malkavian.
I do feel comfortable there.
Possibly Ministry.
That's where I'm so out of. I don't know what that is anymore. It's really out of sync.
The old followers of Set.
God, yeah, I did love that clan.
See what I say?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Got to prove my heart and bury it somewhere.
Yeah. Now the clan literally in world they went through a rebrand. Like they were like, let's put a new face on this that is non-specifically legally distinct from Scientology. And you know, and they exploit human weakness. So they invade a lot of cults and religions and belief systems and just sort of redirect hedonism and belief to their own greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good.
Mm-hmm. How does your storytelling style differ? Is it system dependent, or do you kind of read the players?
No. I mean, it's somewhat genre dependent because, you know, at one point I was running the official comedy D&D show for Invitation to Party, the first game on TV, and running an official horror stream at the exact same time with the Black Dice Society. It's my style is, again, I'm always trying to elicit an emotional reaction, as I said. I look at what the players do. I ask myself, what is the worst possible outcome from this course of action? And then I do that thing.
So the Stephen King approach.
And that never steers me wrong. I think of whenever I come up with an obstacle, I make sure that I know of at least one solution, and then I make that thing as hard as possible. Like I invent kryptonite, and then I throw Superman at them. And whether or not they figure out kryptonite exists is not my problem, because I know. Yeah. Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Because then there's glory in overcoming it, you know. And that's the actual thing people are after. They're after having struggled for something that is ultimately worthwhile, because there's no faster way to kill a group than have them struggle for nothing. They need to struggle for something, but then it means something when they achieve it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've told my group before, like, there's nothing worse than when I give you exactly what you want. It's going to be a price, but I'm going to give you what, if you're going to try, I'm going to let you pull it off.
Well, you know, I beat D&D. I won the game. In 3.5, I had a druid planar shepherd with the saint template and the vows of peace, poverty, and nonviolence. That character was literally unkillable. Literally unkillable. I could beat anything and nothing could beat me. And that was cool for maybe 2 sessions.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, I won. Oh.
Now what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, the enjoyment's not there. It's fun to be unkillable for a little while, but eventually you're like, I have no emotional investment if I can't be hurt.
Yep.
Kind of thing.
There's no point in playing a game you cannot lose. Yep.
Yeah.
That's just true in life.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of recommendations would you give to someone if they wanted to start some kind of like online game streaming? If they wanted, do you recommend starting with your friends or actually building something up and creating a schedule and a pattern? And both. Yeah.
I mean, start with your friends, because you guys know each other and you're gonna have a good time. As long as the people at the table are having a good time, the audience is having a good time. And there's some things that you will just learn from just the time that you spend on it. And when you start, you'll be terrible. I mean, everybody is. Like, you know, your stream will be unwatchable at first. Everybody's is. You know, but then you learn and you find your groove and you find out what works for you. Don't try and emulate anybody, because I give this speech all the time that people are like, oh, I can't do what Mercer does. I can't do what Brennan does. I can't do what I do. And I'm like, no, you cannot. No, right. You can't. You really cannot do what I do. You know, You really can't do what Mercer does. You really can't do what Brennan does. We can't do what you do. We can't tell your story. We can't take those players on the adventure that you can. And that's what the world needs. And now, especially in the darkest timeline, people are desperate, not just for distraction, but they're desperate for meaning and joy, in a sense of belonging and collaboration and being a part of something. Because when this genre is done well, it feels like you're at a table playing with your friends. Especially during the pandemic. And to a lesser extent now, as we're all sort of re-socializing for the first time. But yeah, it's my advice is do it. Get a camera, get a 4K webcam, it's a Logitech, it's like $200, and then get a Blue Yeti mic, which is also about $200. So you're all in for about $400. And start with that and then build up.
Right. Nice. Where do you see like the evolution of like role playing it? Like, where do you see this going in another 5 years? In terms of like, where is this going?
I put a lot of thought into this because, quite frankly, I do everything within my power to shape where it's going, or at least help shape where it's going by some of the stuff that I do and the stuff that I participate in. I think, and let me tell you in advance, not everybody agrees with me because I have this conversation with a lot of people. I think we will see an influx of corporate money in branded deals and stuff. And then you're going to see that money flow back out again, because it is very difficult to monetize streaming and monetize this content. And I've seen a lot of people already try and apply a film business model to streaming, and it doesn't work. And a TV business model doesn't work either.
Right.
And enough companies and investors have seen there's something here, there's smoke here. You know, when it was released how much money Critical Role was making on Twitch, I guarantee you there were a lot of meetings and a lot of boardrooms the next day. I think you're also going to see the establishment of, there's already a couple, but a few more just like flagship institution brands in streaming, but there's still going to be a ton of like also indie ones. Like, have you ever been to Gen Con?
I have yet to make it, unfortunately.
Well, one of the things that struck me at Gen Con is there's a hell of a lot of games in this world, and I didn't know. Like, I mean, there's times you come into this gargantuan hall, and there's just games and devs as far as the eye can see. And, you know, there's a couple of huge ones, like D&D doesn't really have a presence there. But, I mean, for the sake of argument, let's say they do. You know, there's the D&D booth. There's the World of Darkness booth. There's the Chaosium booth. And then a ton of ones around it. I think that's what it's going to be like. I don't think it's going to stop growing anytime soon. But I think, for lack of a better word, it's almost like the streaming middle class will evaporate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately it does. That's something
Yeah.
I do comic book writing and comics publishing, and we're going through that now. As larger companies are buying smaller press companies, they all want to make the next MCU. So they're not buying a publishing company to publish comics. They're buying what they think is viable IP.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't cash out immediately, they just start carving it off. Just, you
Yep.
know.
Yep, I'm going through something similar because I wrote an official D&D comic, Dungeons and Dragons: A Dark and Wish, and now we have Electropunk, which we kickstarted, which we just released the 4th issue, and now we're in talks with a major publisher that shall remain nameless till a lot of things are signed to put it out there. But that's exactly what it is. People just want IPs, and I'm like, guess what? Ours is for sale. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you want to talk when the cameras aren't on, I'm going through something very similar right now with the book that I have out. So yeah, it's a weird time to be in the kind of the creative markets right now, because I feel like they see dollar signs and we just want to tell our stories and make a living.
What I will say, though, is something that is going to be true, because I hope nobody hears what I just said and takes that as being, oh, I shouldn't do it. Because I mean nothing. I mean, that is not what I mean at all. If you want to do it and do it to the best of your ability. If you've never heard of it, Google something called 1,000 Loyal Fans, which the very quick paraphrase is, you don't need millions or even tens of thousands of people to support you. You only need about 1,000 people that will buy anything you put out to build a very successful career off of that. So the bar is relatively low to find your particular tribe. And the joy of the internet is it has democratized the planet, because in the past, I tell people, all of entertainment, all of it, was controlled by about 75 people.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a predatory way. I mean, just if you didn't get a nod from this director or this casting agent or this producer, you weren't going to have a career. It just wasn't going to happen for you. The internet took all that away. You can go straight to the people with what you want to create. The hard part now is being heard above the noise, because so can everybody else.
Right.
But with the entire planet, you know, they're like my biggest followings, especially back when I used to do just exclusively motivational content in times long past. My number 1 market was LA. My number 2 market was Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I still don't know why, but for whatever reason, they were picking up what I was putting down, and I was like, okay.
Our biggest market here is the Pacific Northwest, because we're out of Portland. And almost without fail, our second biggest market, I don't know why, is New Zealand. They love this show in New Zealand.
What time is it down there what time is it now? Hang on.
Oh man.
I think they are
It's
like
tomorrow.
11 hours. Yeah, it's like 23 hours ahead. So that's like a 1 hour difference, but the next day.
It is 3:30 in the afternoon there. So a lot of people are probably listening while they're at work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I
3:30 tomorrow. Hello, New Zealanders from the future.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bring us over there. We'll do a show for you live. Do whatever you want live.
We'll do it live.
That's right.
We'll do whatever you want live. That's the oldest thing on the internet. However, New Zealand, I said I'll do whatever you want live.
I will do it.
Just
I have
bring
been
me
doing.
over there.
I've been doing this show for 17 years. I've done video, film, radio, now comics. I am 100% for sale.
Here's the thing: we all are, man. Just some people
Yeah.
realize it. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think my price is pretty reasonable, even so.
I too am surprisingly affordable. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
So, is there a system yet that you haven't really had a chance to run that you've always been curious about, and it's always like, well, I'll get to it.
I mean, I always hate it when people ask me questions like this because my answer is always anything I want to do, I do. But I've heard great things about Blades in the Dark. Haven't played Blades in the Dark.
Hey!
Yeah. And
We just started that.
Hmm.
You kind of have to change your mindset about role playing in general,
Wh-
because it works backwards and it's so story driven.
in early version of Into the Motherlands, we kind of inadvertently recreated Blades in the Dark, and somebody was like, "Isn't this Blades in the Dark?" And we were like, "Oh, like Google." Yeah, that's what we did. So scrap all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also our game when it's done, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I jumped on pretty early back on that one.
Appreciate
So,
you. Thank you.
yeah, it
I
was
mean,
great.
it's playable. The stream is coming back this week. In fact, I think stream comes back tomorrow. And they're going to be playing it on the stream. So that's we've been play testing, but that's going to be our real stress test of every time they're like, I want to do this thing. And it's like, we don't have rules for that. I'm like, cool, make them up right then.
I will
Yeah,
definitely
so-
want to check that out, because I feel like the Kickstarter for Into the Motherlands came about right around the same time that like Coyote and Crow went to print. And I was really and I'm still this way, where I was like, I'm really tired of like European focused or foundational role playing games.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
We overlapped with Coyote and Crow by about a week. And I think we either we came just behind, like Coyote and Crow had ended like a week before we launched, and we overlapped with Ouroboros. It was like a Coyote and Crow, Ouroboros, and us all about the same time. Yeah. And which was both good and bad, because I mean we did very well, but a lot of people had already spent their money on Coyote and Crow and Ouroboros.
Yeah. Yeah, we had them on when they were launching it too, because I think one of the creators is from Portland.
Mhm.
So that made it a little bit easier to just have them in the room with us and stuff. But
Wait, one of the creators of which thing?
Coyote and Crow, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nice.
It's just nice to see other cultures or new versions of history or what if being worked into role-playing games.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's fantasy, you know. In there's room for everybody. In genre in general, there's room at the table for everybody. In my ethos as a storyteller is everyone needs to see their self reflected in the narrative form, both as hero and villain, to have something to aspire towards and something to want to avoid also. Because I come across this a lot of times where some communities are like, you know, our character can't be the villain, our character can't die. And I'm like, yeah, they can. Because what you don't realize is when you start trying to put those constraints on storytelling, people just won't have your kind of character in the story. That it's like, if this is going to become so difficult, I just won't do it. But I mean, I'll tell you something that happened the opposite. I have to be very vague. I ghost wrote an installment of a very beloved horror franchise that I shall not name. And when I was creating the characters, I actually had actual humans in mind that I know are actors to play each one of them. So each one of the characters in the screenplay I knew was based on a person. So when it came time to cast, I was like, well, that dude is that dude, and that woman is her. And one of the things, you know, so I had an Asian character and an LGBTQ character and all this stuff. And one of the notes I got back from the studio was, can we combine the gay character and the Asian character, and can we kill them first? And I was like, no, no, and no. Actually,
Fuck.
that's
Classic.
they said that shit to me, and this wasn't like 8 years ago, by the way. This was like during the pandemic. Somebody said that out loud to me,
Yeah, I want to say I'd be shocked, but I'm not. I've gotten that. I pitched a comic just a couple of years ago to a publisher, and they said, we like all of this. Could it be less Mexican? Because we don't know how to market that. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, it can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
People are angry on the internet as we speak about whether or not it's okay for elves to be black.
Yep. I'm like, they don't exist. It's make believe, buddy. They be whatever you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he's also the most interesting character in that show for me.
But, believe it or not, and this is something I've gone on record many times, I'm actually usually against taking a beloved character and just race swapping them.
Sure.
Because for me, that's pandering. You didn't give us anything. You painted your leftovers. That's not what I'm interested in. So when people are like, we're going to make Superman black, I'm like, don't. That's not Clark Kent. That's not his story. Now, you want to tell a Val Zod story? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Give us Val Zod,
Mm-hmm.
give us Lucius Fox's kid, whose name eludes me, who becomes Batman at one point. That's cool. I don't suddenly want gay Asian Bruce Wayne. I don't. That's not him.
Right.
But that being said, when you have situations like this where you just have the opportunity to make things more inclusive and more egalitarian, and you want to fight that is more of a comment about who you are than the media. Like, I was going through this today and I tried to be polite because I was going to go a different way with it. But She-Hulk and all these basic dudes that are like, She-Hulk's just bashing men. And I'm like, if you see yourself reflected in the men they're bashing, then you suck,
Yeah.
Like,
That's your problem.
You're kind of telling on yourself, man. I'm like, you're like, maybe that's their existence every single day, and maybe you should just listen to that. And if you can't see it, can't hear it, or are mad about it, then I'm here to tell you you're a part of the problem. So, well,
yeah, exactly. Wow, I'm just thinking about that
from your soul. That was the deep-seated soul sigh.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's so fun to be a woman, or any other variety of minority.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't at all stress you out and give you a stroke when you're only 46.
Statistically speaking, it's not zero. It's not.
Yeah,
zero,
no.
But speaking of white people stuff, I want to know all about the castle.
About to say that's the name of the spinoff. Just for the record, let me just say publicly too, for any cis white males that are watching this or watching the VOD, I love cis white males. You don't ever need to feel bad about who you are. You don't have to feel guilty. I mean, every once in a while, people throw that disingenuous crap of, I'm sorry for being white. I'm like, nobody's asking you for that. There's white guys that I would kill or die for today. There's white guys I love like my brothers and would do anything for. None of us are knocking that. We're just saying, we're kind of full up on their point of view on literally everything. And some other people have some ideas and thoughts and, stories that we'd like to tell and consume, and also participate in some of those stories that they're telling and consuming.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think
a very concise way of making that argument. Like, we are full up on that particular opinion.
We know what you think, Chad. Yeah. But the castle was great. D&D in a castle. I just did 3 rounds over there. I did it once in 2019. I was supposed to do it earlier this year, but I backed out due to some COVID concerns. But no, it's a great time. It's a lot of fun. If a person has the ability to go and participate in it, because it is not cheap, but I do think you get your money's worth, and 24 hours of D&D with a high level professional storyteller is in the literal castle. It's a pretty neat experience.
Yeah. The images I saw looked amazing. For something like that, is it all kind of pre-generated? Like the characters are there, they just show up and play, or is there some work ahead of time?
Oh, it varies by the storyteller. Some people did months of work in advance with their people. I didn't. I was like level 20, literally whatever you want. 3 magic items, 1 rare, 1 uncommon, 1 wondrous or artifact. Build the most broken thing you can. Let's go. So for me, it was an email, but for some other people, yeah.
You're like, cause me chaos. Go for it.
I literally, the name of the campaign in D&D Beyond is Do Your Worst. Like, I'm like, try it, try to be more than I can handle. I assure you, you will not be. So let's go. Yeah.
And spoilers, were they or were they not?
No. Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, sometimes people talk about, oh, this character is too powerful. This item's too powerful. I'm like, that's not a thing. Because if you ever run into that in your game, first of all, there's literally always a bigger fish. And second of all, I'm like, I'll attack you with you. I'll attack you with 5 U's. Here's your duplicates from the shadow dimension. Roll initiative and run them all over. Yeah. So, yeah, it's no problem.
I do love, you're the one that kind of opened my eyes to this, where you can have more fun with a level 21 shot than with like an early level 1 shot, because as a player, I'm always like, oh, I'm so squishy of level 1 to 3. And you're like, yeah, but the threats aren't as dangerous that you get thrown at. But at level 20, all bets are off.
Yep. Well, I tell people, because level 20 is my niche. I mean, I just liked it. And I heard very early that fewer than 5% of D&D campaigns have level 20 characters in them. That's not even counting characters that were played from level 1 to level 20, even if you started at a higher level. So most people don't get to experience it. And the game is actually way more dangerous at level 1, 2, or 3, where a goblin with an axe can crit and take your head off, and your cleric cannot do anything about it. So it's just like, good luck.
It just doesn't sound as cool.
Right. Exactly. Well, and also a lot of it just becomes a question of like stakes and scale. Like, the high level storytelling is no longer about what can they do, because they can do anything. It becomes about what should they do. And I told way back when we did Theogony at Kairos, which is the first stream I ever did, where they started out as level 0 characters who were chosen by the gods and got level 20 powers. I was like, you guys literally can wipe out an entire kingdom with a spell. Like, you can, like Tidal Wave or Meteor Swarm, like, you win. But their 5 neighboring allies are all going to send their armies against you. And if 10,000 soldiers shoot at you, statistically speaking, 2,000 of those bow and arrow shots are natural 20s, and you're going to get lit up. So maybe ponder these kinds of things when you're like throwing your divine weight around, Yeah.
Nice. Well, I mean, Dave, thanks so much for popping on the show. We just realized it's getting a little bit later, so we should get close to wrapping it up here for us.
I got you. Thank you for having me on. Before I drop, I'm not going to drop, but if I just hit that leave button, is it going to break everything? Because I don't want to mess all this up.
No, we'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Right, because you're gonna be on an OBS and it's like, it'll look like a Picasso painting.
Oh yeah, no, we'll be good there. But before you wrap up, like, can you let folks know what you've got coming up? I know there's a few more Black Dice Societies, but give us the pluggables.
I'm legit trying to think of what I can say out loud.
Right.
Well, stay tuned for an announcement about a thing this week, or maybe this week or next. Hang on, let me check the old calendar. I have to do the NDA dance now. I'm sorry.
I'm saying we all get it. I do comic stuff, so I live in the NDA, and Denise works for a comics person, so she lives in the NDA. So,
well, on the 17th, I think it's the 17th. Are we the 17th or the 24th? Well, soon there's going to be a thing coming. There's announcement. I think the announcement is on Monday, and then last 3 episodes of the Black Society coming to a conclusion that I'm sure is going to be fine. You can trust me this time.
Oh no!
Come on.
I mean, I'm ready for it. I've primarily ran
Super Hard Flowers
my entire life, so I'm like, I know how this is going to end.
We started with a wedding. We're going to end with a wedding, and this wedding is surely going to go better than the first wedding did. Like, how could it not? Right?
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes, significant numbers of things. There's that. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but I'd rather say too little than not enough. But what I will say is just follow me on the Tweetagrams at @BDaveWalters, and you'll hear all about it when it comes out. Also, my DMs are open. So if you have any questions about this, if you have questions about streaming or anything you want to ask me, you can hit me up anytime. Ask me anything you want.
Yeah,
Your
and
new
I can
best
say
friend.
he's very accessible.
One tries.
Yeah.
One tries. Yeah.
Man, it
Also,
was great. Go.
shout out to Norm. I owe you a beer next time I'm in Tejas.
He'll take you up on it. That, and he'll get
Mhm.
you. He's got all the barbecue connections. So
Like
Yes,
I
he
said,
does.
I'm from Arkansas. I spent a lot of time in Texas. I know how it goes down. Yeah.
I have shared him the jokes about the Darkonian brisket recipe. So he's all
Old Broadfoot's brisket. Yeah, man.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
having
Thank
you on,
you.
and I'll be listening to you again. So
All right, we'll see you.
all right, take care. Thanks. Boop. That's pretty cool.
That was great.
I liked him. He's all right.
No, he's a lot of fun.
He's
a
all
lot
right.
of fun.
He's all right. No, actually, he's hilarious, and I want to hang out with him all the time.
That's it too. Like I started doing that thing probably about a year or so into Black Die Society that I know listeners of this show have done in the past, where I hear them so often, I start to think like, well, maybe we're buddies. You're like, no, we've never met. Like you have to like be cool, be a pro about it, kind of thing.
The internet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that might be a whole show here.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so good at this, you guys.
We will put in the link.
Dave
There's
took all the momentum with him.
It's Tuesday, Melon. Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes and stuff, but RevNat is up for one of the 10 best cideries in the country.
Through USA Today, was it?
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Wasn't quite as like devilish as I thought this episode would be. That's all right.
Next year, Gadget.
Next year, well, that'll be episode 766. Or no, that's 4 years away.
I got nothing. I'm sorry. I can't math right now.
That's fine. Yeah, none of us can.
The next fun episode will have to be 1313.
I don't want to keep
Ooh,
doing this show
that's
that long. I mean, no offense, but like that's
more than twice as many as we've already done.
yeah, man. I'm really I don't know if I'm gonna last. I don't want to be 60 and be like, hello and welcome to you know. I got the black lung pop.
I gotta say that I was questioned at one point in my late 20s. It's like by friends that are like, man, are you like you run around and you do this costume thing or you do that? It's like, what are you gonna do when you're in your 30s? Like you can't keep doing this when you're in your 30s. Like hell, you're certainly not gonna do it in your 40s.
You showed them.
Yeah,
I'm still doing it into my 50s. So
you're like fool of a toque.
while I respect the fact that yes, you may want to pursue something different, that doesn't mean you're going to stop being who you are.
Right. Yeah.
It just may take a different form.
It's like when I get asked if they're like, well, my family will give me with like, well, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm like, well, I'm not. I'm a writer. I might slow down, but I'm not going to be like, I'm done.
You'll die at your desk.
You know what? I don't make those jokes anymore. I almost died at the mic a month ago.
Yep. We were there.
I know.
Yeah, I did not think that joke through.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'm learning to have a little bit of sick humor about it. So I think you kind of have to.
Levity is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Kevin Smith rebranded his entire career after the heart attack. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm still trying that angle. So we'll see how it works. So far, it's not.
Well, on that note,
Yeah, no.
Well,
I didn't want to go into like, behind the scenes dealing with publisher stuff. So
sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've placed there will be plenty of ads placed before and after the show.
Yes. Yeah, because we went straight
but,
through on that one.
We did, but just a reminder to folks that if you are in Portland and attending the HP Lovecraft Film Festival, you may run into any one of us, if not all three, throughout the weekend. We will be there watching the movies, doing our best to gush over Jeffrey Combs.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And Kelly Maroney is now going to be there as well.
Which is pretty fucking awesome.
Night of the Comet and Chopping Mall.
Fucking Night of the Comet. That movie messed with me when I first saw it.
That movie explains a lot about cheerleader outfit fetishes that I have.
Oh!
Cable, that's so original.
It's really not, and I know that. However, I saw it when I was an impressionable young lad.
These things leave a mark.
Times. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I will definitely from Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Bald ladies. Sorry. Well, I'll definitely be there Friday night for sure.
I'm going to be there all 3 days. So if you see me wandering around without either of these two, one, call an adult.
Yes, something's gone wrong.
Yep. But feel free to come and say hi. Don't lurk in a corner, please.
Yeah, the only one who's allowed to do that is Dimitri, because that's like his thing.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's it though. There's only just the one.
It's just Dimitri, just it. That's it.
I'll be there Friday and Sunday, almost certainly. Ironic, weirdly, I can't go to the Horror Fest because of death on Saturday.
All right then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And our next few guests are all going to be from the horror realm of horror. I've got to confirm next week's. The week after that will be Alex Spieth, who is the director of Stag. It continues to blow the fuck up.
Yeah, it does.
Which is fantastic. I am looking forward to reconnecting with her and having her squee about how that movie is doing.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I think she's going to be in Portland pretty soon too, relatively speaking.
She may be an in-person guest.
Yeah.
So
what could possibly go wrong?
Well, it's a school night this time, so.
Did you want an itemized list or an alphabetical list?
That's true. It is a school night, but we can always schedule something that's not a school night to hang out later.
I actually would like it to be chronological, Cable, because that's the only way I can think about lists.
Okay.
I want mine to be biographical.
Okay, now it's just getting weird.
Yeah.
Now you're just quoting High Fidelity.
Yeah, you know what? I got some curry waiting for me, so I'm getting lightheaded.
Okay. Well, we should probably call it a show then.
Yeah, thanks again to our guest. It was a lot of fun talking to him. I had a bunch of things that were better prepared, and then I lost them, and then we had tech issues, and I spiraled as I do.
I think it went fine.
It went fine. Yeah,
everything's fine.
You recovered.
Thank you. Well, with that, I'm Aaron Doran.
I'm Benarita.
And I'm the thing that lurks in the dark.
Damn it.
Rawr.
What was that?
I panicked.